Hi, I'm Divya Velu. I'm a second year internal medicine resident at UAB Huntsville Regional Medical Campus. I'm going to discuss with you about a case on successful closure of paravalvular leak secondary to bioprosthetic valve endocarditis post-medical therapy. Let's start with case presentation. My patient was a 69-year-old Caucasian male with past history of bicuspid aortic valve with aortic stenosis who underwent elective surgical aortic valve replacement with bioprosthetic valve. 6 to 8 weeks after the procedure, following a trip to Cuba, patient presented back to the hospital with complaints of fever. Initial blood cultures started growing methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, confirming bacteremia, and transesophageal echocardiography revealed vegetation over the bioprosthetic valve, confirming endocarditis. Patient was successfully treated with 6 weeks of IV antibiotics, and microbiological clearance was confirmed with negative set of blood cultures. Patient did not have any sign of paravalvular insufficiency in the beginning, but later, with a repeat transesophageal echocardiography after 6 weeks of antibiotics, there were signs consistent with paravalvular insufficiency. However, no vegetation was noted. This is the transesophageal echocardiography obtained at the time of diagnosis of endocarditis, revealing vegetation with no signs of aortic insufficiency. Pre-procedural planning for elective paravalvular leak closure includes negative set of blood cultures, proving that patient is no more bacteremic, transesophageal echocardiography just before the procedure to define the degree of paravalvular leak, identify exact origin of regurgitant jet and rule out active vegetation, and CT of the heart which delineates the anatomy, revealing features such as crossing angle, annular sizing and size of the defect as detailed in the future slides. This is a transesophageal echocardiography that was obtained during the pre-procedural planning, which reveals severe paravalvular aortic insufficiency, confirming the defect to be located anterolaterally. However, no vegetation was noted. The next part of the pre-procedural planning, the CT angiography of the heart. As highlighted here, a communication between the left coronary cusp and left ventricle was noted, and also it was noted to begin anteriorly at the juncture of the right and left coronary cusp. As we mentioned earlier, CT angiography of heart will help us to measure the size of aorta and aortic annular area in particular that will help in the intervention plans. Finally, on the day of procedure, paravalvular leak closure through percutaneous transfemoral approach was planned. Bilateral femoral artery access were obtained with the help of ultrasound guidance. Through left femoral access with 6 French sheath, we advanced a 5 French JL4 catheter to aortic root close to the crossing angle as delineated by CT scan. Further, left coronary injection revealed adequate height from valve ring to the left main artery as seen in the angiographic clip here. Through right femoral access with 10 French sheath, a 6 French AL1 guiding catheter and 5 French multipurpose diagnostic catheter are inserted. A stiff angle glide wire was used to cross the left ventricle, followed by advancement of diagnostic catheter into the ventricle. An Amplatz exchange length extra stiff guide wire was swapped into the left ventricle and guiding catheter was removed as we can witness in clip 2. Then, 8 French shuttle sheath was traversed through the leak and dilator was withdrawn. An Amplatzer device was inserted through the shuttle sheath, as you can see in clip 3. Here comes the critical point in midst of the procedure where the chosen device has to fulfill the desired purpose, which here is the successful closure of the paravalvular leak. An 18 mm Amplatzer muscular VSD closure device was advanced into the ventricle through the shuttle sheath as we mentioned before. And here, as you see in clip 4, the device has to be released. So, into the ventricle, the distal disc was popped out first. And it was pulled back, snug against the defect, then the proximal disc was tried to be released. Once it is successful, we repeated root angiogram to confirm adequate distancing from both bioprosthetic valve leaflets and left main coronary system. Finally, the device was completely released from the cable after confirming the stability with tug test. Aortic root angiogram was performed at the end after the device was released, which revealed trace flow across the paravalvular leak closure device in diastole. Following the procedure, patient was transferred to transesophageal echocardiography post-procedure, which revealed the bioprosthetic valve to be normal in appearance and function as expected, and the newly inserted Amplatzer type plug-in device in paravalvular space without any abnormal motion, ensuring stability, and also no residual leak was noted, confirming the success of the procedure. To conclude, paravalvular leaks are known to be common following bioprosthetic or mechanical valve replacement. Particularly, the risk is higher with incidence of associated endocarditis. The most common presenting symptoms of paravalvular leaks are often features of heart failure and hemolysis. The proposed mechanism of paravalvular leaks include weakening of valve and the adjacent tissues by the infective vegetation itself, causing a wear and tear phenomenon. Although paravalvular leak closure involves common strategical approach, the procedure by itself is the challenging part. Success rates following paravalvular leak closure depends on multiple factors, the most important being completion of entire antibiotic course with confirmed evidence of no active infection before even initiation of pre-procedural planning. Feel free to contact in case of questions. Thank you.